Hello, we're just going to make a really cute background for our computer desktop. And this is just a really colorful ribbon that we're going to make. So when I go to create a new image, I'm going to create one that's going to fit my desktop. So 1680, whoops, I think it's 1650. I'm not sure offhand. Doesn't matter. I'll change it later. I'll make a different one by 1050 and choose OK. I don't want that to be a black background, so there's a white background on there. We're going to go with this one here with the white as the foreground color. We're going to go up to Filters, Render, Clouds, and Difference Clouds. We're going to take the detail to about 15. What happens with this is that it actually sharpens it up a little bit. We don't need to use random seed because we're not going to be using this filter again. We don't need to worry about the tileability because we're making a background. We're not making anything that we're going to be setting repeats to later on. What we are going to do though is change the X and the Y settings. The Y settings, you can see if I bring it all the way up, it kind of scrunches it and moves it up and down this way. And Y will stretch it out like that. So it looks kind of weird. It looks like a little bit of a ribbon effect, but that's exactly what we want. So click OK and wait for it to fill up your image here. With this now made, go to your rotate tool, and we're going to change the rotation on this. You know, you could do 45 if you want to, but it doesn't really matter right now. And we're just going to click rotate. Then we're going to go to our scale tool, and we're going to scale this out just so that this covers this part of our image here. And don't worry about that. It looks really messy, but it's okay. We'll be working with the whole thing. Even though we scaled it outside of the bounds of this image, we're still going to be working with it. The really cool tool that we have is called a Distort tool, and that's a lot of fun to play with. So go to Filters, Distorts, and Eye Warp, and you see that you get this preview window, and now you can see that it encompasses the entire image, not just a part of it that shows in the window here. We have all of it to work with. What we're going to do is we're going to scrunch and move this around, and we're going to make kind of like a ribbon with it. We have to remember that this encompasses all of the GIMP, and what we're working with is only probably about this big inside of there. You know what I mean? So we're going to be working in this kind of an area, but with all of this information. So we have our move selected. We're going to set the deform radius, I don't know, somewhere between 120, 150, anywhere in there. And the deform amount, we're not going to worry about any of this other stuff. And then we're going to start to deform this, but something you have to be watchful of is that the corners where they touch the edges kind of stick to the edges. We can't move them really well at first. We have to work them away from the edges. So if I come up here, you can see how I'm pulling on this, but it's like that edge is sticking. We have to keep working on it to get that to unstick. And then we don't ever really get it all the way unstuck anyways. But we don't have to worry about that a whole lot either, because that's up out of the area that we're going to be working with. So let me just pull these off a little bit. And the reason I like them pulled off, even though they don't matter, is because we want as much of this information usable as we can get. So now I'm just going to kind of push my pieces together, kind of make it like that. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of shape. So scrunching it together, moving it around, and realizing that I really only am working with the small section in the middle. And now to see what I mean, let me go ahead and click OK. And you can see it working. And now when it comes up, we only have part of it here. And that's a little bit too straight for me. It's not quite what I want. So I'm going to go back into filters and distorts and eye warp again. And now I can pull this down, push that up. Maybe something like that is more like what I like. And click OK. It's a really fun tool to play with. Now this side is too low. Alright, one more attempt at this. And distorts and eye warp. So that's like this area right here. So I'll just push it up a little. And I guess that's, no, it's not good. One last time, I swear. This is the last time. I just cannot get that bent the way I want it. Sometimes it's fun to just play with it though, but that's pretty good. That's not bad. I might even use my scale tool now and thicken it out just a little bit. Doesn't look like it's doing much, but it is. And scaling it. Wait for my little thing to get done working here. Oh, yada yada, because I took too long, did you see? I spent too much time doing it. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, so now what we're going to do here is we are going to click on this layer and choose alpha to selection. Alpha to selection, see, it selects whatever we have pixels in, and it outlines them, and whatever we do now is only going to be done inside this area. So with that selection made, let's make a new layer. And when we use a new layer, transparent is okay. You'll see that that selection, choosing it, is still here. It's on this layer though now. So now we can have fun with a little bit of coloring. I'm going to go to my paintbrush, and I have just a brush chosen that is a little bit fuzzy. We don't want it too harsh around the edges. And the size of it, let's bring it up a little bit, not too much. It's going to be different for whatever brush you use, but you can see mine's kind of a manageable size. If you look right there, I think you can see it. Big enough to not take too long to color, but small enough to get a little bit of detail with. The first color I'm going to use is, I'm going to use some kind of a pink. I like that color, so I'll click OK. And I'm just going to kind of scribble here a little bit. Color that in. It doesn't have to be neat or anything like that at all, just some color. And I'll pick a new color. Let's go with the yellow. Vibrant's pretty good. And now go up along the edge. But you don't want to really go onto it too much. The only reason for that is because it has a really nice effect when you have a little bit of space in between them. And then the next step that we do just adds a really nice effect. And I'll pick my last color. And maybe I'll use a purple of sorts. Let's see. That's actually a good color. And then I'll just scribble down here. And you can see I said don't cross over too much, right? And now I am. That's alright. It's all about having fun. And I'm almost done. Alright, so there's that part of it. Like I said, don't worry about going. The reason that we have that selection there is so that we don't go beyond that point at all. When we're done with this, go up to filters, blur, and Gaussian blur. And what we're going to do is just make this blurry. But what also Gaussian blur does is it takes the pixels of color and it kind of like pushes them around, moves them away from each other to give us a little bit of an area effect. So I'm going to set this up to 200 on both them and click OK. And you'll see how that really blurred that up nicely right through there. Do you see that? Um, the next thing that we're going to do is come up to this layer here, and in the mode for it, we're going to change it to grain merge. And now you see how the shape or the lines of the ribbon come through really nicely on the actual ribbon itself. So that's kind of cool. Above this layer, we're going to make another new layer. And that new layer is going to be transparent as well. And we're going to use Control Shift A to deselect everything, or you can go to Select and None, and that make that selection go away we made earlier. Now in the brushes, we have this orange brush. It's called the Sparks brush. It's yellow and orange, looks like a little sun. And this is a GIMP default brush, or a standard brush for GIMP. And the size of it doesn't really match much on the size, but what we're going to do is we're just going to make some sparks on our ribbon. Now if you drag it and hold it, you'll see you can make like a line of sparks. If you click in one spot, you get just one little spark or a couple little sparks coming out of it. So you can experiment with that a little bit to see if you want. I like to just click and pull a little bit, click and pull a little. It just gives, I don't know, just a nice little effect, I think. Just a little click and pull. And you can do this any way you want, really, it doesn't matter. And you don't have to stay inside the lines. There's going to be a point where it comes out and you see it and it looks like there's all these ones outside the lines disappeared, but they really don't. And so I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so after you get this one done, we want to set this layer. Actually, we want to desaturate it first. So go to Colors, Desaturate, and Lightness is fine. Click OK, and you'll see it turns it with no color in it. And then click it layer, or on this layer, click the mode normal and go to, where do we want? What do we want? Dodge. And you'll see it just turns it all nice and white in some spots. It picks up the colors in others. It's just a really nice effect. I like it a lot. And we can also change the opacity of this to, I don't know, whatever looks good. So it's not too bright. Somewhere around 70. Somewhere around there is nice. Okay, so with that done, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. So, new layer, transparent, of course. And we're going to put this down underneath the background. If it doesn't go down, use your little arrow here to push it down. On this layer, we're going to actually make our own drop shadow, because our own drop shadows have a little more character to it than just the standard ones that, you know, that GIMP does by math, and it's all kind of boring. So pick on your bottom layer and choose your background color, or your foreground color, to black, your brushes, and choose your fuzzy brush again. I'll use that one. And now I'm going to color black on this. But remember, I'm on the lower layer, so it's beneath these things. So with a manageable size brush, let me just take this down a little bit. I'm just going to go along the edge of my ribbon. Doesn't have to be real neat. It's one of the reasons that we're not using the GIMP drop shadow effect. And you can do it on both sides. You're not just limited to one side. But let me show you something else. You can kind of go like way off like this here. This one isn't so bad. It's kind of fun. But this one is like way off, right? So let me go back and let me show you something else you can do. You can click here on your lower part and then hold your shift button and you can click and click and click. Just holding your shift button the whole time. And that kind of helps you stay on track with what you're doing. So in case you're kind of like nervous about just drawing black everywhere, you can get a little bit of a handle on it that way. Okay, so now after we have that black underneath there, we're going to go up to Gaussian blur again. So filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and change this to 25 because 200 is too much for this. And click OK. And you'll see how that blurs it up. Really nice. We can soften this up more by doing blur again if we want. And how you can do repeating that blur is either with Control and F, because Control F will repeat the last filter, or you can come up here and use repeat Gaussian blur. Either way is fine. We can also take this if we want to and go to the layers mode and change this to soft light. There it is, soft light. And you'll see that it's a little softer, but not much, but I'll show you why that turns out nice in a minute. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make another new layer. It doesn't matter where, because I'm going to use my arrow and move it to the bottom. Now it's on the bottom layer. The reason that this one went away is because this is set to soft light, so it's not going to show right now. If I move this one up, you'll see it come back. So let's see what happens with that when we do our background. So here's our background layer, and we're going to pick two colors, preferably like two of the colors of the ribbon that we did. So here's my first color on the top, and then for the bottom color I'll pick the pink and add the purple. Maybe I should make the purple just a little bit darker. And click OK, because those are kind of really close to each other. And then the gradient tool, and set this to linear, foreground to background, and I'm just going to click up here and drag it down there. And I kind of like that look, don't you? But see now, because we set this layer to soft light, do you see it there? It's even nicer now. Now it's not black. Now it's taking on the color of the background to be enhanced rather than by the black. And you can see it there. And also now you can see all those additional sparks we did. Remember I said they would disappear, and they had. See, they're gone. You can't see them. But now they show up with the background there. So this turns out to be a really nice, I don't know, wave for your background. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to export it. And I'll export it to my desktop. And I'll call it the wave ribbon, and enter, and whoops, I'll just do JPEG for now, and click OK, export it, and export it. Now let me find it real quick in my folders, and my folders aren't opening up. There they go. 1 second. Desktop. And you'll see how nice this looks in a minute. Sorry, it's taking me a second to locate it on my desktop, even though I saved it there on purpose. Alright, there it is. I'm going to set it as my desktop background. And let me close this up so that you can see it on my my desktop. And when I close this, now all of them popped up now. That's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice background. And I did it all myself, and you can do one too. Have fun with it. Bye.